In early 1258, Hulegu Khan, a grandson of Genghis Khan, led a massive Mongol army to besiege Baghdad, the capital of the Abbasid Caliphate. Despite the city's historical significance and its status as a center of Islamic culture and learning, the Mongols captured Baghdad after a brief siege. The city was extensively looted and many inhabitants were killed, including Caliph al-Mustazim. This event is often cited as marking the end of the Islamic Golden Age. On February 13, 1462, during the Wars of the Roses in England, Edward IV sought to undermine Scottish support for his rival, Henry VI. He negotiated the Treaty of Westminster with John of Islay, Earl of Ross, and Lord of the Isles. The agreement proposed that if Scotland were conquered, lands north of the Firth of Forth would be divided between the Lord of the Isles and the Earl of Douglas, both of whom would hold these territories under the English crown. However, this ambitious plan was never realized, and the treaty's discovery later led to significant repercussions for John of Islay, including the loss of his titles. The Challenge of Barletta was a notable event during the Italian Wars on February 13, 1503, where 13 Italian knights faced 13 French knights in a chivalric tournament near the town of Barletta in southern Italy. This event was significant as a matter of honor and national pride, especially for the Italians, who emerged victorious. Catherine Howard, the fifth wife of King Henry VIII of England, was executed on February 13, 1542, on charges of adultery. Her marriage to Henry had been marred by allegations of infidelity, and her execution further highlighted the tumultuous and often perilous nature of the Tudor court. On February 13, 1660, following the death of his father, Charles X Gustav, Charles XI ascended to the Swedish throne at a young age. Due to his youth, a regency was established, which initiated negotiations to end the Second Northern War, a series of conflicts involving Sweden and its neighbors. The Parliament of Negrete on February 13, 1726, was a significant meeting between Mapuche leaders and Spanish colonial authorities in Chile. This assembly aimed to establish peace and end the Mapuche uprising that had begun on February 13, 1723. The Treaty of Guianti, signed on February 13, 1755, was an agreement between the Dutch East India Company, VOC, Pakubawano III, and Prince Mangkubumi. This treaty divided the Javanese kingdom of Mataram into two entities, the Sultanate of Surakarta and the Sultanate of Yogyakarta, reshaping the political landscape of Java. On February 13, 1849, a delegation led by Metropolitan Bishop André Saguna presented the general petition to Emperor Franz Joseph I of Austria. This document sought the recognition of the Romanian nation within Transylvania, Banat, and Bukovina, advocating for national rights and autonomy within the Austrian Empire. The Siege of Geta, ending on February 13, 1861, was a pivotal event in the Italian unification process. The capitulation of the fortress at Geta effectively marked the end of the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies, paving the way for the unification of Italy under the Kingdom of Sardinia. On February 13, 1867, work began on covering the Seine River in Brussels. This ambitious urban project aimed to improve sanitation and modernize the city, leading to the creation of the central boulevards that define Brussels today. On February 13, 1880, inventor Thomas Edison observed the phenomenon of thermionic emission, where electrons are emitted from a heated material. This discovery, sometimes referred to as the Edison effect, laid the groundwork for the development of vacuum tubes and had significant implications for electronics. On February 13, 1913, the 13th Dalai Lama proclaimed Tibet's independence following the collapse of the Qing dynasty's influence. This declaration initiated a period of de facto independence for Tibet, which lasted until the mid-20th century. The American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers, ASCAP, was established in New York City on February 13, 1914. Its primary mission was to protect the copyrighted musical compositions of its members, ensuring that creators received fair compensation for public performances of their works. On February 13, 1920, the Negro National League was formed, becoming one of the first professional baseball leagues for African American players. This league provided a platform for black athletes during a time when Major League Baseball was segregated. On February 13, 1935, a jury in Flemington, New Jersey, found Bruno Hauptmann guilty of the 1932 kidnapping and murder of Charles Lindbergh, Jr., the son of famed aviator Charles Lindbergh. The trial was widely publicized and became one of the most famous criminal cases in American history. On February 13, 1945, after a prolonged and devastating siege, German and Hungarian forces in Budapest surrendered unconditionally to the Soviet Red Army. The siege, which began in late December 1944, resulted in significant destruction and loss of life, with estimates of civilian casualties reaching tens of thousands. The fall of Budapest was a strategic victory for the Allies, paving the way for their advance into Austria and further into Central Europe. Between February 13 and 15, 1945, the Allied forces conducted a series of aerial bombings on Dresden, Germany. The attacks involved 772 heavy bombers from the Royal Air Force, RAF, and 527 from the United States Army Air Forces, USAAF, dropping over 3,900 tons of high-explosive bombs and incendiary devices. The resulting firestorm destroyed more than 1,600 acres of the city center and led to an estimated 25,000 deaths. The bombing of Dresden remains one of the most controversial Allied actions of the war, often cited as an example of terror bombing. On February 13, 1951, the Battle of Chipyung-ni commenced during the Korean War. This battle marked a significant turning point, representing the high watermark of the Chinese incursion into South Korea. United Nations forces, primarily composed of American and French troops, successfully defended their positions against numerically superior Chinese forces, halting their advance and boosting UN morale. On February 13, 1954, Frank Selvey, playing for Furman University, became the only NCAA Division I basketball player to score 100 points in a single game. His record-setting performance occurred against Newberry College and remains unmatched in Division I men's basketball history. In 1955, Israel obtained 4 of the 7 Dead Sea Scrolls, ancient Jewish texts of significant historical and religious importance. These scrolls, discovered between 1947 and 1956 in the Qumran caves near the Dead Sea, include some of the oldest known manuscripts of the Hebrew Bible. On February 13, 1960, France conducted its first successful nuclear test, codenamed Gerbois Bleu, in the Sahara Desert. This test made France the 4th country to possess nuclear weapons, following the United States, the Soviet Union, and the United Kingdom. In 1961, near Olancha, California, a rock was discovered that appeared to encase a spark plug, an object seemingly out of place and time. Dubbed the Koso artifact, it sparked debates and theories about its origin, with some suggesting it as evidence of advanced ancient technology or even extraterrestrial influence. On February 13, 1967, American researchers uncovered the Madrid codices by Leonardo da Vinci in the National Library of Spain. These notebooks contain a wealth of the polymath's sketches, scientific diagrams, and writings, providing deeper insights into his genius and contributions to various fields. On February 13, 1990, East and West Germany reached an agreement on a 2-stage plan to reunite the country after decades of division following World War II. This agreement paved the way for the official reunification on October 3, 1990, marking a significant moment in European history. On February 13, 2004, the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics announced the discovery of BPM 37093, a crystallized white dwarf star. Nicknamed Lucy after the Beatles' song Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, this star is essentially a massive cosmic diamond, estimated to be 10 billion trillion carats. On February 13, 2008, Australian Prime Minister Kevin Rudd delivered a historic apology to Indigenous Australians, particularly the stolen generations. This apology acknowledged the suffering and injustices inflicted upon Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, marking a significant step towards reconciliation. For the first time in over a century, members of the Umatilla American Indian tribe exercised their treaty rights to hunt and harvest bison just outside Yellowstone National Park. This event restored a centuries-old tradition guaranteed by a treaty signed in 1855. On February 13, 2012, the European Space Agency, ESA, conducted the inaugural launch of the Vega rocket from Europe's spaceport in Kourou, French Guiana. Vega is designed to carry small to medium-sized payloads into orbit, enhancing Europe's capabilities in space exploration. In 2017, Kim Jong-nam, the estranged half-brother of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, was assassinated at Kuala Lumpur International Airport in Malaysia. He was attacked with the nerve agent VX by two women in an incident that garnered international attention and speculation regarding North Korea's involvement.